Hello everybody, my name is Brad Jalbert. I am the founder and owner of Select Roses in Langley, BC. Business I founded in 1990 on a piece of land that my parents bought in 1974. You've been seeing a bunch of videos of me pruning roses and working around the house and talking a little bit about the beginnings, but I wanted to introduce you to the two people that started me, because without them there would be no me, there would be no Select Roses, and without them we wouldn't have the land to build a farm on. We're going to talk with a little bit about a story first about a bench that was built for their 50th anniversary. This was constructed for them by a good friend of theirs named William P.J. McCarthy. He had it commissioned by one of his gentlemen that do work on his estate. So before that, we'll just invite Mom to come and have a seat here. And I'm going to invite my dad to come in. So Mama, you come and have a seat. This is my mom. Her name is Loretta May Jalbert, better known as Lori or Mum. And my father is Denny Jalbert. Everybody knows Dad as Dad or Denny. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how this bench came to life. My dad is known as keeping everything. And I mean everything that started here in 1974 is still here, including me. So well, Dad, we'll let you explain what happened and how the bench came about.
Well, just so happens that I had this wheel that I'd been saving for a project, and speaking with Bill one day, he said, you know, I think I can do something with that wheel for you. So I sent it home with them, and a little while later, up appeared this bench. So it's a wonderful bench, and we thank Bill very much for his beautiful bench.
That was for their 50th anniversary. So our great friend Bill, who does a lot of gardening and helps us out a lot here, started out with a wheel. We end up with a bench, and Mom and Dad started out with me many years ago. There's also a few other siblings. There's 3 of us in the family, and we were living in a new subdivision in what's called Cloverdale, BC. And I guess Dad decided he didn't want to raise the family there, wanted to bring us out to the farm. Some friends of theirs had already moved out here. I think it was the and Condrats. So Dad knew some people, and I think the people who own the land behind us was a man that you had worked with, right?
Yes, Paul Parker.
Okay, so did he approach you and say, hey, there's some acreage for sale, or how did it come about you guys decided? Because I was sort of 9 at the time. My brother was a year older, and then everybody else was young. So how did you guys decide, well, we're going to go and live on 7 acres?
Well, a funny story about that. We were out visiting Bob and Marilyn one day.
Every Sunday we went out.
Yeah.
Behind us here to the north. And Bob says, we said, you know, we really like the country here in this place. He said, well, there's some property right behind us that's gone subdivided and gone for sale. Why don't you come and have a look? So we marched out through the snow. It was snowing, had a look, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
So of course, Mom being a city girl, you know,
Mom was raised in Vancouver.
anyhow, a little later one day, Mom looks out our front window. We lived on a corner in a cul-de-sac, and there's probably 15 kids playing on our front lawn there, and she's looking out and says, I don't know any of them kids. You know that property out in Langley? Let's go have a second look at it.
Oh, that's how it happened. Good.
Yeah.
And you know, I wasn't even consulted. And I have a memory of coming out here for the first time, and it was cold, so it must have been in the fall or winter or something like that, because I vividly remember slipping and falling.
It was snowing too.
It was snowing, and I would never live here. It was a mud hole, and I wasn't going to leave as a little kid. Since then, I fell in love with the place. But we had an interesting beginning, as everything was treed here, right, Dad?
Oh, yes.
They had to push a driveway in. There was no water here, so how did it come about that we got the original well even? Because there's a bit of a story behind the well.
Well, first of all, you need a well, but you have to find out where the water is on the ground. So, Bob's father, as it happens out, he was a well witcher, which is a person that finds water.
A real witcher.
Yes.
Yeah,
He found it.
He had those sticks that went
These
across.
sticks, yes, and then we contact Northwest Wells,
Yeah.
and they dug the hole where he said,
Right
and there
there.
came the water, 105 feet later.
I remember he was a nice senior gentleman. He was one of the original homesteaders in Langley. This is Grandpa Farquhar, we called him, and used these little sticks to find where our original well was. So we needed a house to live in out here. My mom and dad built, and it's way back behind the barn where you can't see it, under a little shack that we stayed in that had 3 bunk beds.
Yes.
And how big do you think the building was?
20 by 12.
20 by 12. And the family, that's all of us, were out every weekend while they were building the house over there that's still standing. And Dad was not a construction man. He was in the automotive industry and learned how to build the house. I can tell you a little bit about that. I know he had some friends that came that helped out. You guys picked out the
Kinsmen.
plans. The
Kinsmen.
I remember my grandmother hand splitting, Grandma Jalbert, your mother hand splitting shakes
Yep.
that went on top of that house. And tell them about the first living arrangements. Did we have beautiful bedrooms for all 4 kids?
We had the basement, the cement was poured.
Yeah, we lived
so
on cement.
we weren't living in a
No,
dirt
so the
floor.
top, we didn't even have bedrooms.
No.
Oh, but we had cement, which was very nice back then. And what we had? Was it curtains that divided the rooms?
One
Boys?
curtain,
One curtain.
it was
Yeah.
like a dorm.
Oh,
1, 2,
yeah,
3,
that's what I
4.
remember. Yeah. And you know, as kids, we didn't think this was bad. We thought it was fun. It was all fun to us. We didn't know any better. We had a functioning toilet upstairs, I think.
Oh,
that
yeah.
had a curtain on it too. There was no door that you could lock. There was just a curtain
And
on
one
it.
sink
And one sink.
and a bathtub.
4 kids,
we have a
one
bathtub?
sink
Yes,
and a,
we
ba-
do.
and a
We have the
bathtub.
bathtub.
Mom insisted we're not moving in without a toilet and a bathtub.
That's probably a good thing.
Yes.
So Mama got
we had-
a toilet and a bathtub
Toilet and a bathtub, running water,
And a curtain.
electricity.
and a curtain. We had running water and electricity.
Yes.
Okay. And then you were working as a partsman.
I was working for Power
Mom's
Supply,
full-time
Park
job
Person.
was looking after 4 kids, and we were easy kids, weren't we?
Oh,
Very.
yeah, you were just angels.
Yeah. I was the best one, probably. Would you? Well, anyways, so Dad went to work, as it was back in the day, every single day, and then he came home, and we had other work to do. He was still building the house, finishing it himself. So you worked pretty much nonstop, right, Dad? For the first, how many years did it take to finish this house? Do you think?
Oh, well, probably 2 or 3.
2 or 3
And,
years.
some of it didn't get finished for quite a long years after that.
Oh, yeah, and when the drywall went up,
Yes, I
well,
remember.
guess who was sanding it?
You were a drywaller.
I was sanding
Oh.
so he could come home and paint.
Oh, after a full day's work.
Yeah.
And were we helping? What were we doing? Being kids?
No, you were
We-
at school
we
when
were
I
at
was
school.
sanding.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So Mom kept busy in the day. There was no house cleaner. Mom had no nanny.
No.
Nobody extra. It was just Mom looking after everybody. Vegetable garden probably went in right away
After.
because we always had the garden.
Yeah.
Now, all of my grandparents, their parents were still alive at the time. They would come out and visit.
Yeah.
I remember. And my gardening bug started. My brother loved gardening right away at my grandmother Russell's, and she had, I remember, a piece and a Mr. Lincoln, very famous roses in her garden. Always did the vegetable gardening and the canning, and Mom did that here. We had a big veggie garden, I remember, and the property has changed a lot since the beginning. So Dad got us involved, I guess, with our other friends. They were in 4-H. Which the 4-H's stands for Head, Heart, Health, and Hands. Learn to do by doing. So it's like a young farmers type of group.
And
And
you remembered that.
yeah, amazing. You remembered that. Well, this is what we learned. And the person who's actually videotaping this, my good friend Nancy, who you will be meeting at one time, we met through 4-H. That's a whole other interview in itself. So we're going to talk about that one later. So and it was Bob Farquhar, the Farquhar family still owns. Bob has passed away, his wife's still alive, and his kids, and his one son is still living on the property behind us, so we're still connected. We still have the same neighbors to our right, and we've only to our left, the ones to our right have only changed one time. We've had the same neighbors. He's also our dentist, and wonderful family that lives around here. So we started doing farming. It was 4-H, right? We got
Yeah,
us
this
into.
was the corral.
This was the corral.
That
That's
was
where
the
we sell
corral.
roses now. Where was the first barn that you kept the cows in?
Right here,
There was
where the floor bundle section is.
And then the
okay.
chicken coop.
Oh no,
Okay.
excuse me. It was right here.
The
This
barn
the
was here.
corral, in the middle of the driveway
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
Yes.
And Nancy, you can take a shot of
That was the
that was the
chicken
We
coop.
had chickens with a wired cage, and so this here, people, was our chicken coop. I'm going to cross and jump in front of the camera. So this was the chicken coop. We raised our own eggs, and we had our own chickens and all that kind of stuff, and they would run around in a little chicken pen out front. And then after we did the thing with the chickens, it became a dog house. We had Nori, the Newfoundland. We changed it to a dog house, and then later on it was cleaned out and it became the pump house and another junk house for Dad. Dad always needed another house to put his junk in. So we want to talk a little bit about our 4-H and our gardening years at the beginning. So the place developed over the years. I always loved gardening. Mom and Dad did what I called the typical landscaping. They planted some junipers. We went to Clay's Nursery. Still good friends of ours where I apprenticed that were just up the road. We had some rhododendrons from Clay's Nursery.
Yeah, but don't forget when we first moved here, I planted a rose, my
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
rose, in the roundabout.
Yeah, we had
And-
big cedar trees, and my mom didn't read the box, I guess, so she planted it in the shade at the base of cedar trees, but it bloomed, and Mom always says I got a perfect rose every year off of that. And that was Miss All-American Beauty, and that rose lived till this year. And
It's
Dad,
still over there, isn't it?
no, we actually dug it out, Mom, sorry.
Why?
Well, we're renovating the bed. We're doing something new.
And it was not doing too well.
It wasn't doing too well. Yeah, so
That
was
was-
it. Yeah, I know.
Are
It was
you
a-
sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. We had to go, Mama. Yeah, so we did that on Mom's 80th birthday. So the original rose is no longer on the property. Dad used his tractor. We're renovating that bed. So that rose is gone. But there's other roses that have been here. Queen Elizabeth has been here a long time. And the gardening bug for me, I think, really started in high school because it was in the 80s. I have a book you guys gave me for Christmas. I remember it says Merry Christmas, Brad, I think 1981. So I would have been in grade 10, something along that lines. And I loved dogs and everything else at the time. And our other siblings were involved in a variety of sports and singing.
Yeah.
Randy liked
Band.
gardening, band,
Band.
and all that kind of stuff. But the gardening thing was my baby. And I started, when we really started getting into it as a hobby, planting rose bushes, and I would force Dad to dig out his prized junipers. He loved these big things called junipers. And do you remember that when we first did, and how big they were, where the cars parked, and we had to, what did we do to get them out? To
Put
dig
a
them out?
chain around them, and the
tractor
pulled them out.
The tractor wouldn't. It was, I think, the bus.
May have used a school bus. At
Yeah.
For a while.
His dad.
Tug on that.
Yeah, his dad was driving school bus and also farming as well, raising cows. So we had how many animals? We had at the time. We had dogs, we had cats, we had Hereford
Ducks.
cattle, we had ducks, we had chickens, and sheep. As my one
Joy,
sister
yeah.
Joy got into sheep, and I remember there was hardly. We've just never had horses, but we've tried everything else. And then llamas came later.
Llamas
We had
came later.
llamas too.
So we should have been named McDonald.
Yes, yeah. We had a McDonald's farm. We had a little bit of everything, and we liked it all. And some ducks were born in the house. Do you remember the name of the one? Was born-
Chi-Chi.
Chi-Chi. Yeah, we had. Why did you name it Chi-Chi?
Because it would cheep, 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 followed me all over the
Followed
place.
Mom everywhere, and we would we just took the eggs from the ducks and we hatched them in the canner. I think with a light on them in our bedroom, and Mom taught it to swim. You had a little pond or a kitty dish or something.
No,
it swam
my-
until it went outside. What did you have it in?
My dish pan.
Your dish pan. So Mom kept a duck in the house in her dish pan.
In
This was
her-
very normal for my upbringing. A little bit different than Nancy's, so we'll talk about that later. And let's talk about the business year. So we graduated from school. We all made it, and I went to work. My brother at a restaurant, did that, and then I was working at a restaurant called Catalina's Cafe. And I remember looking at it thinking, I can't do this for a living, flipping hamburgers. This is not a good way to make a living for me.
You were the
And
manager up
I was the
there.
manager of this truck stop cafe, and I still didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I had to get up so early in the morning. And so I was gardening as a hobby. I already belonged to the Rose Society at the time, and I saw be a horticulturist. So I decided to go back and study horticulture, which is now Fraser Valley University, which I'm proud to say was selected as one of their top 40 alumni of all time. That was just a few years ago.
You were in their first class?
I was in their first
combined
horticultural class they ever had.
For 1 year.
It was a
It
one-year
was-
program.
yeah.
1 year, and I had a certificate, and that was the highest level of education anybody in our family had ever had achieved. Was the 1 year certificate. Everybody went to grade 12, and then Dad gave us the boot. We had to go to work after
Oh,
that.
but there's one coming up that's going to be.
Yes, yeah. Well, somebody's going to be
Joyous.
that's coming up. Yeah.
Yep.
We're ignoring the phone. We're not going to pretend it's in there. So we're not like Letterman. We don't have a whole bunch of people to beep and flush and do all that kind of stuff. Okay, so the business we got a tiny little greenhouse because I
From
was
Condrats.
from our friends in
up
Condrats.
there.
How big do you think that little thing was?
Yes.
I think it's probably 6 foot by 8.
6 foot by 8 foot. People, is how I started my career. And for any of you that aren't going to make it to the end of this video that have a dream, I want to tell you I started in a 6 foot by 8 foot greenhouse, and my roses now sell on 4 continents. The roses that we've hybridized. That little greenhouse that we started with little mini roses from cuttings,
Yeah.
and we'd sell them just on the weekend because I was working at other
You had
jobs.
to work
I had
at
to work
Clay's.
after I graduated from college. I worked at Clay's Nursery down the road, and we'd sell it as a tiny greenhouse.
And you were open on weekends only?
Open on weekends
And
only.
then somebody from Vancouver came up during the week,
Yeah.
and I wasn't going to let them go home.
Oh, so
So
Mom started.
I sold
'cause
my
she-
first,
Honey, oh, your first
my
rose.
first miniature.
Oh,
and I
good.
phoned over and told you.
Yeah, because we made a sale. It was
Yeah.
probably, how much were they? About $3?
$3.
$3. So I made
Yeah.
$3 while I was working. I was making a double income at the time. That little greenhouse we used for several years, then we gave to the neighbors who
Yeah,
used it. Millie next door,
Yep.
and used it for years and years and years. We're not sure if it's still there. We're going to take a look,
We're
and
gonna
if
find
it
it,
is,
yeah.
we're going to find it and take a photo of it for you. After that, I was just miniature roses at the beginning, and we decided, Dad and I wanted to go a little bit bigger, so we built another greenhouse. It was 1,000 square feet. And everything on this farm, by the way, and I mean everything, was built by Dad. So I would just point to because I don't know how to build anything. If I try and put a nail in, it bends. I can do roses, I can't do anything else mechanical. So we found a good local guy, Brian Steele, I remember, sold us the project. It was like a do-it-yourselfer kit, was it?
Your greenhouse, number 1.
It was greenhouse number 1, yeah.
Number
But
one.
we bought it as a do-it-yourself
Yeah.
kit.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
all in pieces. You just had to construct it.
Yeah, and then we had to put it together. So we did, again, the learn to do by doing. And I have a photograph that hopefully we'll scan and show you later when, at the end of the summer, the first greenhouse that my brother was helping me fill pots, take cuttings. I was still working in another nursery. And in those early years, my only thought was to sell miniature roses. And we sold quite a few on the weekends, and I would go off in my pickup truck. I went to Granville Island Market, to Van Dusen Gardens, places like this that we could pawn off our little mini roses. The Rose Society would buy some from us. I was really involved in the Rose Society, and I loved creating hybridizing. So the year was 1990, was the very first year of the business, selling the little roses, and I started hybridizing right from day one. And loved that part of it. At the beginning, I didn't dream that my roses would make it to the world market anywhere. I just thought we'd be selling them here. But no, I was hybridizing from the beginning. 1990.
I
we opened.
remember the first year you brought in the hybrid teas.
Yes, yeah.
And there was 75 of them.
Yes.
And I told you, you're never going to sell them.
Yeah.
75?
Yeah. I bought. So there was a local grower, and we bought in the big roses that we now are well known for. And 75, and Mom thought I was going to go bankrupt. I was going to lose my shirt. 75.
And this year, how many did we sell on opening day?
We sold on opening day close to 700 rose bushes this year. And
On one day.
On one
One day.
day.
We never did that.
Still on this small piece of property, down one lane road, 38th Avenue. We're in the same location, and we will now, on a very popular variety, the first year bring in a 100 or 200 plants of something that's quite popular. If it's our new anniversary rose, we still do 100 or 150 plants a year. So it was 75 rose bushes in total. And I was ecstatic because I made a few dollars on each one of those, and every penny I made at the time went back into the garden to buy plants. I was a plant fanatic, not just roses. I loved all kinds of plants. And my money always went back into expand, and I was always telling Dad to cut trees down. Not because I don't like trees, but roses need sunshine. And since then, the trees have continued to grow, and the business has continued to grow quite a bit too.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Dad, the first years, I was working back and forth. You were open on the weekends, and then I think by year 3, I decided I wanted to make a go of it. So I would cut what was happening. I was working at Clay's Nursery, and I would go 4 days there, 3 days here, and then the next year I would tell that nursery, okay, I can work for you 3 days because I'm going to do 4 days running my own business. Finally, I made the jump at the end and did this full time. So I've always worked basically 7 days a week, but it was divided between jobs, but then it became this job. Dad was working your full-time job, and Mom was helping me from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I paid it well, didn't I?
Don't forget the mail order part.
The mail.
Oh,
we did.
yeah.
So we did with
Yeah.
our minis. We did a mail order business. So Mom would wrap. We printed up a little catalog
Yeah.
and sent it off in the mail. There was no internet to do it like that. And
Yeah.
they would send us an order with a check. And we were so excited when the order would come in. There would be a check, for $30, $40, $50 for the mini roses.
Yep.
And we would pack them up in the spring in the greenhouse in little boxes. Remember? You'd wrap-
I did all
Mom-
the
Mom-
wrapping.
Yeah, went in a little plastic bag, and you would tie. The
No,
little-
I wrapped them in newspaper,
Yeah.
put them in a box.
Yeah. And then Canpar we would deal with. The
Yeah.
courier would
Well,
come
At
and pick
first,
them up.
I took
Yeah.
them down to the post office.
At first.
Oh, at first, yeah. Porter's
Yeah.
Porter's General Store.
Porter's, yeah.
And that was a store that had been here since the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we got big enough we could call a courier to come in. And big enough means 5, 6, or 7 boxes would go out sometimes. I think
Yeah.
sometimes even more that we would ship out at that time. But then what happened? It got to the point we cut out mail order. Was not profitable at all. We still liked it, but we were getting so busy retail. They were finding us everywhere. And
Yeah.
I would write for garden magazines, do all of that kind of stuff. And these people were just finding us, and more people were
yeah.
coming all the time. But it was always spring. We were open spring till July. And then what year did you retire, Dad?
2000.
2001.
2001. So Dad retired to basically, holiday, travel the world, do all of that kind of stuff. And, and so since then, Dad's built me two more greenhouses, another little building. The original shed, by the way, has just been that we lived in. It still has the bunk beds, and it's filled. What's it filled with, Dad?
Junk.
Junk.
Repossessions.
Repossessions.
Prized possessions.
Good junk.
Good junk. Prized possessions are in that shed. And Dad built another shed. Nancy, can we get this in the picture? You'll see Dad's new one. That's his best build. Over through the rose bushes, you'll see it. That was, how many years ago, Dad? 3?
2014.
2014 you built that. How old were you when you built that?
Well, over 65.
Over 65. You're well into your 70s. Do you have any formal training in engineering or anything like that? Any formal training at all?
Learn to do by doing.
Learn to do by doing.
Learn to do by doing.
Dad would sketch it out, and I can tell you that builders, people in the business, have looked at this building and said, this is really well built. They have looked at the other buildings that my dad has looked at and said, this is really well built. And Dad does his the electrical work. Nobody's shocked ourselves yet. We've the basic plumbing Dad does. Of course, we have things inspected properly, like everybody would on a
Yeah,
farm.
but there's no plumbing there.
There's no
And there's no plumbing over there.
no, there's no plumbing over there.
Only in.
Yeah, and
I wish there were lights on over there.
well, we'll
sometimes.
get over there one day, Mom.
One
I
day.
think we'll do that. So I've traveled a little bit. I've been to England and Ireland. I had the privilege of judging at the Hague Rose Trials a few years back, and now my roses are being picked up by other large growers. So what happens with our breeding program is companies like, for instance, Vogue last year, Vogue magazine, chose our rose to be their 125th anniversary rose. We work with some other groups all over the world, and we have an agent that takes care of our roses there. And we have a wonderful relationship with a new local grower that will hopefully be launching some of our roses. The rose market is very different in different parts of the world, so when we're selecting our seedlings, we're trying to select for what that market might want. If it's more of a shrub type rose, or maybe they like the English rose market. So I'm always sending budwood of my product out to all of the different markets. We still maintain the business here. From what I know, we retail more roses than anybody in Canada from here in Langley. Compared to any independent garden center. Our numbers are still more than anybody. And I was told at the time, when the large wholesaler, the biggest in the world, was from the US, Jackson and Perkins, told us I was their single largest rose customer in all of Canada. So some of you might be thinking, well, why are you bringing these rose bushes in? You don't grow them all. We love the breeding work, the testing work, but there's so many good roses developed by many different people in the world that the best way that we can do this to bring you the best quality of plants is to buy them from all these different people.
Yeah.
And then in the spring, we start working hard, don't we?
Yep.
And it's about February that we start up.
Snow too. If
Snow
there's
too,
snow,
and we're
Rain,
and mom
snow, cold.
and mom, you turned 80 this year. Everybody
Yeah.
knows because we celebrate it.
Yeah.
And mom is still out there every day with us in the snow. Mom broke her ankle the 1 year and had her booty out there, working potting rose bushes.
Did I?
It's yes, you had your booty. What did you do? You sprained your ankle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fell
Wrapped
down
up.
the stairs. It was wrapped up in
Yeah.
one of those inflation
Yeah.
boots.
Yeah.
My parents are very hardworking people, which I appreciate. And just to end the whole thing, one thing we like to say, we really love it, don't we?
Oh.
We like doing it, yeah. The
Yeah.
people are great that come out from all over the place. We've heard stories from people visiting from England that come
Yeah.
out to visit us, and now they're going to be able to buy some of our roses in these different places. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
We also became the first Canadian hybridizers to ever win an International Trial Ground Award. So a variety of mine was entered in Barcelona, Spain. We won 2 fragrance awards there. That same variety went to New Zealand, where the grower we work with there, Amora Roses, introduced it, and that won a fragrance award in that country as well. We'll be continuing to develop that part of the business. We continue to welcome everybody here to the nursery, of course. The main purpose, though, of this video was to introduce the 2 people that made it all happen, because if I wasn't here, if they didn't have the vision to buy the farm, well, and if I didn't have them helping, it wouldn't happen.
Yep.
So Mama Jalbert, who's not going to retire, she's
No.
going to stay working. Yeah, no, Mom's
Yep.
not going to retire. Dad's not going to retire. He just helps. And how much have I increased your pay this year? Probably. Mom and Dad work on a sliding pay scale, so we
volunteer work.
It's called volunteer. Yeah, they're world-class volunteers. My parents have been from day one. But sometimes I give them money to go out for dinner, don't I?
Yes,
To go
yeah.
down to the airport
Yeah.
restaurant, or
Yeah,
sometimes
fish and chips.
Fish and chips. You've had McDonald's.
Oh,
or
lots of times.
A&W from. There's
And it
our
keeps
sweet
us
kitty.
young.
It keeps us all young. I
Keeps us
feel
in shape.
I think it does, and it's been fun. A lot of people said, "How can you? Does it make you crazy working with your parents?" I said, "Oh yes, it does. Imagine how it drives them crazy, because I'm not the easiest person to get along with. But generally, we get along fine. There's not been nobody's hit each other.
No.
Nobody's ever had huge yelling matches. Little
No.
yelling matches sometimes." And usually it's about dumb stuff, but there's never been any big yelling matches.
No.
So we get along well. Our customers generally get along well. We've only had a couple yelling matches with customers here. It's been a great business to be in. We've loved it. Next year we'll be 29 years in the rose business. We're planning our big 30th that's coming up. We'll try and do a really big special new rose for that. And we'll tell you more about that in the future. Thank you everybody for listening to Brad Jalbert from Select Roses, my mother Lori Jalbert, and Denia Jalbert. You'll see us here 6
and
days a week.
Come and say hi to us.
Other than
by all
Monday,
means.
we were open 7 days a week until this year.
Yes.
Mama says we need a day off. And we go
Finally.
shopping and we do it finally. So we're only open 6 days a week now. Thank you so much. We love having everybody come out and see us.